I'm Dr. Robert Davis, family life educator and leadership coach. This is my co-host, R.P. Soriano. Soriano attended Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, worked in the financial industry, and was an international consultant before partnering with me to launch UnBoxed to Lead. Me? Well, I worked for over 20 years as a senior pastor and a community organizer. Then I retired and started a leaders peer support community called UnBoxed to Lead. Soriano and I have been friends since the early 90s, and with our varied experiences and expertise, we help leaders reach the next level in their leadership. So join us for the next few moments as we unbox the power and the potential of your relationships, your leadership, and your life.
Here, I'm R.P. Soriano with Dr. Robert Davis, along with our very special guest, Dr. Dave Kennedy, and you're watching UnBoxed. Let's move on to another question here. Can you talk a little bit about your leadership philosophy and your values? You hinted at it earlier, but can you take a little bit of a deeper dive into that?
Well, Raphael, I love how you said leadership philosophy and your values, because they're completely connected. It's interesting, if someone had asked me my leadership style even 2 years ago, or my philosophy, I would have probably struggled and kind of gone all over the place. But for the last year or so, I've had the privilege of working with an executive coach who has really helped me connect the fact that I'm a value-based leader. I know what my values are, and that's how I lead. And so my number one value is connection. And I've talked about that already. Being in good relationship with people is very important to me. Being connected to people, helping other people connect is very important to me. And so I lead that way. I lead relationally. I want to know everything's good with people on my team. If there is an issue, I'm going to address it. I'm going to squash the beef as quick as I can. The second value would be growth. Right? I expect to grow. I want truth from you. And I would expect that you would want to grow too. And that sometimes gets me into trouble because one, not everybody wants to grow. Right. And two, when you value connection and growth at the same time, that means you're going to have hard conversations. Right. Right. Maybe you're underperforming. Maybe you're not living up to expectations in your role. And so because connection and growth are important to me, we're going to talk about it. And I need to describe the gap between, my expectation and where your performance is. And hopefully our relationship can handle that and you're wanting to grow. But if not, that can lead to some challenges. My other values are intentionality or results. I just everything we do is going to have a purpose. And so my leadership, I think, carries that, which leads to the kind of mission focus. Why are we here? Why are we doing what we're doing? Let's make sure every action we take is going somewhere. My next two of my 6 values are efficiency and fun. They conflict a lot, right? So you can't have fun necessarily in an efficient way. But I want us to be efficient, which means communication. I want efficient, concise communication, but also we need to stop and have fun once in a while. And I like my office and our teams to be filled with laughter. I know we're doing well when we're laughing together. We can stand a lot when we're laughing together. We can go through a lot. And then my final value is just honesty or authenticity. I want to be true to me. I want you to be true to you. Let's not play games. Let's not wear masks. If you're having a bad day, tell me. Bring all of you to work. Let's just help each other out. Our corporate promise to our community is feel whole. We want everyone in our community to have the opportunity to feel whole, body, mind, and spirit. And so that means in our company, we ask people to bring their whole selves. And so be authentic. So I don't know if you want to unpack any of those, but those are my 6 core values. And I kind of try to lead from those.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I find it very interesting, your statement before you dove into that about leadership style and values. Are you seeing more of that? You mentioned your executive coaching. Are you seeing more of where leadership is moving more to that value value-based leadership as opposed to trying to find a specific style, but leading from your values. And if you're seeing that trend, is that something that you think is good for leadership or better for leaders?
Yeah, I certainly think that in the corporate world and in the church world as well, there's an acceptance that, and maybe this is new, but that there's many different styles of leadership, right? There's not one size or a cookie cutter approach. We need to lead within our own skin. But I don't know about the values based. I would hope that that's a growing awareness for leaders. I just know that for me, every time I would talk about something with my coach, he would connect it back to one of the values that we had already established are important to me. And it made me start seeing kind of everything that I was doing in leadership as connected to one of my values. And it's just become very familiar to me. I think it's great if people know what is important to them and lead from out of that, because that's the way you're going to be authentic as a leader.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I when I think about, so my kids, they are considered third culture kids because they're being raised in Singapore, and we struggle. One of the things we struggle with, and I've talked about it here on the broadcast in the past, is the fact that they don't really have ties to what it means to be American per se, because they're just not growing up in their passport of origin, country, or that's however they refer to that. And we struggle with that. What does it mean to be American? And what we've worked on, or what we've focused on, is let's just focus on values. Just focus on who you are as a person, what your values are, and let's just make sure that those are solid. And we'll let the whole cultural identity thing, work its way out. But if you're solid with your values, you know what you will stand for, what you will not stand for. I feel like that will get them more through life and wherever they go, in a way where they're not just necessarily caught up in trying to be connected with, with a nationality per se. So since we've kind of taken that away from them, Robert, you want to?
Yeah, I wanted just a couple of things that just jumped in my mind when we talk about values and guiding principles. One of the things, and even with your situation with your children, I think that guiding principles and values transcend culture, nationality, et cetera. Let's talk about a guiding principle, of integrity. That goes everywhere. Or whether, and I heard Dave talked about one of his values is intentionality. That goes everywhere, no matter where you are, whether you're in Japan or in Africa, whether you're in some a remote place in the Amazon jungles. Intentionality is going to show up there. So I'm always encouraged with a leader who says, hey, this, I want to make sure that I'm showing up through my values, making sure that I'm showing up, living out, the principles of my life, et cetera, because I know that can be applied wherever. And it can be translated, I guess it's applied and translated into any cultural context that we may be in. I wanted to ask Dave this question because I want to go back a little to his pastoral leadership. And we at UnBoxed do a lot of work with nonprofit leaders who have to do a lot of work with volunteers. And one of the challenges with volunteers is you really don't have a carrot or a stick. They do it because they want to do it. In your pastoral leadership, there were times that you had individuals who did not necessarily see where you were going or buy into where you were attempting to lead the church. How did you manage the pushback? How did you manage even the sabotage by individuals who were volunteers? You're not paying them, so you can't just fire them. That were not necessarily on page with where you were going.
Well, great question, and I'll just kind of disagree with the one thing you said is you can't fire them. You can fire volunteers. We did fire volunteers. It's not a fun process, but sometimes you just have to redirect them or put them in a place where they can succeed.
Oh, pause it for a second. Talk about that a little bit more. Then talk about firing volunteers a little bit more. I think that's something that a lot of leaders will want to hear more about.
Well, I think of one volunteer in particular who they were working directly with me, and it was not working. It was not a healthy situation. And so I just had to say, you know what, I really appreciate your heart here. And I understand that you want to help, but this is not your role. And I'm going to have to ask you to move to another role. I can help you find that, but it's not this role. And it was hurt that this person was hurt. But in the long run, it was a much better situation for everyone. We were able to work through it, but yeah, it happens. And so I think I said it just to say, we can't have the mindset that we can't fire volunteers. We need to know that volunteers can be reassigned. They can be removed from their positions if it's being toxic to the organization or to a leader's health. But to your point, I had the advantage of starting the church you were a part of, Robert, New Day Parker, out of a multi-site model. So we had several locations for this church, all one church, but different locations. And over the course of time, they kind of developed their own culture, and different people with different values went to the different locations, right? One was maybe a bit more traditional. One was a bit more progressive, suburban. And so by the time we had multiplied those two sites and I ended up going with New Day Parker, they had a very, very strong culture with a lot of buy-in, everyone wanting to go the same direction. And so we had the kind of culture that was so clear on its values and its mission that if someone came along to sabotage that, the system expelled them, right? They were so uncomfortable in that environment that they ended up self-selecting and finding another organization that was more in alignment with their values. And so we had some very clear gatekeepers for the organization, from an orientation everyone had to go through in order to become a part of the organization, where we would say, these are our values. This is what's important to us. This is who we are. And if you align with this, we would love to have you join us. If not, we could help you find another church. But that was very helpful too. Just trying to weed anything out before, because there's different ways of looking at how to do church and what's important. And there's, I think, a church for everybody. And so it's just about finding the people who are going to align with your values and your mission, and just staying on that path and not accommodating people who have other views. Hearing them, making room where you can within your values and your mission, but knowing where the line is and saying, I'm sorry, we can't go there. That's not who we are. You're welcome to stay here, but you just need to know we're not going there.
Robert, do you have any follow-up?
No, I was going to let you jump back in.
I don't have anything to jump back in.
I left Robert speechless.
Yeah, I know. You might have.
So yes, and I do. Well, then I thought that you had some follow up. I thought you were transitioning to your next phase. Let me jump in, and that is, you're in two total different worlds. I know that there's an element of spiritual care in your current position, but the construct is corporate. It's a hospital. Mm-hmm. It has a total different function than a church. How have you transferred, and I share this because leaders make transitions from corporate to nonprofit to corporate. They make transitions from one aspect of nonprofit to another, one aspect of corporate to another, et cetera. How did you transition those skills that you acquired from pastoring into the corporate world?
Yeah. So there's a lot of doubt that can go into that because I'd never worked in this environment before. But so number one, I had to trust the person who recruited me and hired me. He is someone that I do have a great deal of trust for, and he believed I could do it. And other people who had been in healthcare who knew me believed I can do it. And so that meant a lot to me. But a lot of the things that I was doing as a leader in a church completely prepared me for this, because I'm still doing the same things. I'm caring for people spiritually. I'm overseeing teams of individuals to accomplish predetermined goals. We're having to develop systems. We're having to engage our community. We're having to engage global mission footprints. I get to develop leaders. These are all things I was doing. And so the transition from one to the other was pretty seamless. And so I'm fortunate in that regard. Not all leaders are able to make that smooth of a transition from one industry to the next. But yeah.
What I'm hearing you say is that organizational leadership, and this is something that we do talk about at UnBoxed to Lead, is that there are so many similarities and the challenges, especially relating to interpersonal relationship skills and development and whatnot. There's so many similarities between an organizational leader, whether it's a pastor, whether it's nonprofit, whether it is corporate, whether it's a family business, et cetera. Those skill sets are similar and transferable. And so it seems as if you are affirming this. I have one last question, Raphael, if I can throw that in there. Yeah. I know that we're working with the clock. And that is, what advice or counsel would you give someone who is entering organizational leadership? And can we break it down into two? What would you give to a new person? There is a dearth of people entering into the pastoral field. And this is across denominations. So what would you tell a young person that is entering into congregational leadership? What would you tell someone that is entering a young person that's entering into and other forms of organizational leadership?
Wow. Well, anyone who is entering into pastoral leadership, as you say, there is a dearth. And so I would encourage that if you feel called to go that route. I believe the church is the hope of the world. I believe that a life committed to growing the church is a life well spent. And I would just say, grow with your church. Have a growth mindset. Be a learner. Be humble. Listen to the people around you. Know that the people in your church are going to be there longer than you are. And just do what you can to love them and grow them toward mission fulfillment. That's the purpose. The purpose isn't to comfort them. Certainly that is a part of the mission, but it's not to just do what they want to do, but it's to, Jesus has given you the mission, make disciples. So help your church become disciples of Jesus and make disciples of others. For organizational leadership, the same things is relationships are key. Learning is key. Half of your job, maybe more, is going to be about your ability to relate to others. Be more focused on being interested than interesting, right? Learn more than you're worried about impressing people. And then there's the technical aspect of any job and the knowledge. And learn as much as you can, become an expert in what you do so that you can add the most value to your organization so that, really they can't do without you.
I told you that was going to be the last one. I promise this is going to be the last one. And this is to make up for bringing my kids to our first lunch meeting. Okay, so this is to make up. And that is, you are actually the first white male that we have had on UnBoxed. And we are in a very unique time in corporate leadership. We are still dealing with the Me Too movement. And I'm not casting any judgment either way on it. I'm just talking about the reality of it. We're in the Me Too movement. We are in the Black Lives Matter movement. We are more sensitive to immigration, diversity, inclusion, and equity. So I'm interested in how, as a white male, do you approach it? How do you think about it? How have you navigated this new, and in many ways, this new terrain? And I forgot to mention, our understanding and sensitivities toward LGBTQ plus. So how have you navigated that? I think that's very important for us to ask. Yeah.
Thanks, Robert, for the opportunity to talk about that. These are issues that are really, really important to me. I actually started our region's first DEI council and have been chairing it for the last 3 years because this is important to me. For a large reason because of things that you've taught me, things I've learned with you. Robert, I don't know if you remember, one of the first things Robert did was he introduced me to an all-Black ministerial alliance in downtown Denver, where I attended for 2 years as the only white guy and only white pastor, and just being in that place where I was the minority, and just hearing a very different way of looking at the world and looking at ministry, and just these godly men who had such different experiences than mine was just so formative for me. And so this is, it's become an important part. So obviously I can't change who I am. I'm not going to apologize for who I am, but I can recognize where there is disparity, where there's inequity, and invite those people to the table and advocate for them and say, we need to make sure that everyone has equal opportunity, a sense of inclusion. And so, our DEI Council is doing some really significant work in acknowledging our various team members from minority cultures, in addressing health disparities in our community, social determinants of health in our community. So that's some of the work I'm most proud of. So again, I can't change who I am. I'm not going to apologize for who I am, but I can use the influence I've been given and the responsibility I've been given to advocate for those who maybe don't feel like they have a seat at the table.
I have so many more questions, but I gave my word. And for the first time in all my life, I'm going to actually keep my word.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast today. Thank you so much to our special guest, Dr. Dave Kennedy. I have to say, I was very much enriched by your insights, your approach, your values. Thank you so much. I'm sure our listeners were also blessed just from hearing your perspective. So thank you for being with us today.
Thanks to both of you. It's been a pleasure.
The Unboxed broadcast is produced by Bobby Davis Jr., graphics and video design provided by Damon Mace, and marketing and promotion by John Sedano. Remember to visit our website at www.unboxedtolead.com. For Dr. Robert Davis, I'm RP Soriano. We look forward to seeing you at the next broadcast of Unboxed as we help you unbox the power and potential of your leadership. Be well.
UnBoxed provides a full-service leaders peer support community that helps high-level leaders become more authentic leaders who build healthy workplace cultures and reach their personal life goals. To learn more and discover how we can take your leadership and your life to the next level, please visit our website at unboxedtolead.com. That's unboxed, 2lead.com. Again, that's unboxed, 2lead.com.